the armed forces were here training, and all the hotels, including the hotel, one of the hotels my grandparents built, the Victor, was occupied also, and they moved out. But we would go there and go around there, and we would see all these young men, and it was sort of exciting for a child to see all of this. They marched on Collins Avenue, and they went in the golf courses. They were exercising and bivouacking, and we didn't get the full import of what they were here to do. I guess what brought it home, though, was when I was on my father's boat with him, and we saw a periscope from a German submarine.
My father had a little fruit juice stand across the street from the White House Hotel in the 1400 block of Ocean Drive. And when the troops used to break after marching at Flamingo Park, their maneuvers, they would come back to their hotels and they would break in front of my father's little juice stand, and they would just flock in there. And my father and my mother and my grandmother would stand outside like this while they helped themselves, even to the cash register. The sandwiches were made, the coconut milk was ready made, the oranges were peeled, everything was ready for them to help themselves, and they did. And they were actually standing in line and making change for themselves. And then when they finally would all leave, my mother and father would go back into the store.
We were walking around. My mother said, "You know, I think this is Art Deco." And that really wasn't a known concept, but she absolutely focused on it as, here are all these old Jewish people, Miami Beach is being torn down, there's this plan to rip down everything from 5th Street South, and that's just the first phase, and then they'll rip down everything else. My mother had a good idea. She had nothing to lose. She had the best possible imaginable skill set for taking on what was largely a hearts and minds battle. It wasn't that she was so formidable per se, because she really wasn't. It was that the idea was a really, really legitimate, good idea.
If you want to go somewhere to have the experience that you have here, you don't have any other choices. We have this incredible combination of a tropical experience and a cosmopolitan experience that come together. There's plenty of tropical experiences, as I said. You can go to Jamaica, you can go to the Bahamas, you can go all over the world. But after 3 or 4 days, you got a tan, you've gone fishing, what else are you going to do? If you want a great cosmopolitan experience, you can go to Paris, you can go to New York, you can go to lots of San Francisco. But the weather's probably not going to be that nice, and you're not going to be able to spend the day on the beach. Here, think about the experience you can have. You can get up and have breakfast in a Cuban cafe. You can then go to the beach. You can then have lunch in a great local restaurant. You can then shop in the greatest stores in the world if you want, or you can walk on Lincoln Road, or you can do all these great things. And then in the evening, you can go see the opera, or you can go see the art films, or you can go do these incredible, or you can watch a Philharmonic performance outdoors. You can't do that anywhere else. And that's because all of this architecture has been preserved. That's because we have, luckily, and also because of some very smart people, we have really kept what makes this area so unique and so special.
When people started coming and seeing the building and they were falling in love with the building, the displacement developers started to buy. Now remember, a lot of them were filled up with Marielito people, low-income people. Some of them not so good, but many of them very hard-working people. And in Ocean Drive was the majority retired, elderly Jewish people. So we had a mixture here that lived together very well. That's why Miami Beach developed into such a ethnic, different population, because we all learn to live together very well.
The people really were influential. It was like Joe's a guy, Jesse Weiss from Joe Stonecrab. He used to have a lot of people. And if you want to go off the camera, I can tell you, I'll just recite one story. They have they used to have a family table down there that's set.
Off the record?
No, you can put it on the record. But it was really a funny anecdote because I put it on at the Colonial Theater there one day. We were talking about Jesse Weiss. His father and mother founded Joe's, and was one of the outstanding rescues. Anyway, he used to have people like Walter Winchell and the guy from the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover. And I used to hang around with Jesse because I was just a young lawyer. I used to hang with him. And we were sitting at a table one day, and there was a guy by the name of Lefty Horan or something. The reason we call him Lefty, one of his arms was bad. And J. Edgar was sitting at the table, Walter Winchell, myself, and Jesse Weiss. He came up to the table. Does anybody need a watch? And J. Edgar Hoover says, yes, I can use a watch. So he shows him the watch. He says to, the guy said to J. Edgar, what do you give me for it? J. Edgar Hoover says, what do you want for it? He said, what do you give me? So J. Edgar Hoover said, I'll give you $100 for it. He says, $100? He says, the reward is more than that. I mean, these are just funny stories, but guys like that used to come down here.
Miami Vice came, they loved the people sitting on the, in the chairs, rocking the chairs and everything. And it was like that while they were here. And they really loved doing what they did here because it allowed us to get all the information out to people and what was going on, and it was great. And I worked with them a lot with artwork for their different things that they were shooting. They would do a scene like in somebody's office, and if it was a doctor or something, we'd put in something that should be for that. If it was someone that was a crook, we'd find interesting stuff for that. But yeah, we worked with them for many years. It was a great show, and it did a lot for Miami, even though the people that were on the board at that time, they thought it would be horrible to have, shoot 'em ups. And it was just the opposite. It drew everybody here, all the models and everybody. It was really good.
It was a phenomenal high school, and it had interesting social dynamics. And you really did have, it was an extremely diverse campus. 1/3 of the campus was, I guess, Hispanic, 1/3 of the campus was African American, and 1/3 was whatever other meant, Anglo, Jewish. Years later, so many of the kids who came out of that school have really made impacts. You go to a Wikipedia thing on Beach High, and the who's who, or I'm actually active in the Hall of Fame for Beach High with the Alumni Association, and every year I'm just stunned by the people that have, Robert Rubin, Secretary of Treasury, Brett Ratner, Hollywood's director, famous, so many. The list goes on in so many fields, and certainly even locally. Elected officials, business people. Steve Ross, the owner of the Dolphins, a Beach High graduate. It is incredible to me how that public school, throughout its history, and I think part of that's a testament to Miami Beach. The populations that kept coming, every decade it changed a little bit, and they were folks who were looking for opportunity, hungry, entrepreneurial, and motivated, and their kids, therefore, I think, grew up in that.